whatever direction your path takes, the destination is always going to change. I mean, let's face it, we're all destined for the same destination at the very end, right? We're all going to be at that same destination at the end. But that journey along the way is going to take many different routes.
Welcome to episode number 10 of the 100 Successful Women, a Conversation to Inspire series. I am very thrilled that it is already episode number 10 of this series. And I'm super grateful to each and every one of you who have supported me along the way and allowed me to make it to this milestone. I would also like to send my special thanks to all the 10 women who have shared their wisdom with us in these episodes. And also, I believe that they have impacted you in some way and inspired you to look at things in a different way. It is our 10th episode, and I am super excited to have someone whom I have been long awaiting to come to our conversation. So thanks so much to Carol Cooke for saying yes to my invitation to join us in this 100 Successful Women Conversations. Carol Cooke Ampli is an inspirational sporting figure in Australia, a motivational speaker, as well as a writer. Carol is an expert in overcoming adversity and change. She had faced with different challenges in her life, and one of the biggest challenges she had was the diagnosis with multiple sclerosis, MS, and being told by her specialist that she will end up incapacitated. However, Carol makes a decision to prove the doctor wrong. Instead of giving up on her life, Carol is now a 3-time gold medal Paralympian and 9-time world champion in paracycling. Carol is one example of how one can change their life and take control of their own life. So let's all have a listen to what Carol is going to share in our conversation coming up next.
Hi, I'm Carol Cooke, a 3-time Paralympian and multiple world champion in cycling. I'm an expert in overcoming adversity and change. I will have your audience members challenging themselves using my 5 steps to harness their force. So, I've had my mountains to climb. There's been some really low valleys, but getting to London was reaching the summit. Everybody thinks that the gold medal's the summit, but it's not. That's the snow-capped mountaintop, because just getting there was the summit. But obviously in life, once you hit that summit, as Robert said, there's a whole, you get over it and you think, oh my God, I've got more to climb.
How many of you have ever had a dream that so consumed you, but you just couldn't quite make it?
My keynotes are very different from others, as I've embraced many changes in my life. Some were amazing, and some not so great, but I've been able to find the positive in all of them. Let me help you find and harness that inner force so you can get what you want in life.
I really enjoyed her presentation, and she's such a committed person.
Carol was just amazing. I found her resilience and determination, and the word courage really stood out.
Thank you so much for jumping on here with us, Carol.
Oh, happy to be here.
Yeah, I know that you're super busy, and yeah, it's really an honor to have you here. We have been waiting for a few months to have you here.
Yes, that's true. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I know that you're super busy and you are doing speaking as well, and then you have your training. That's very understandable. But to be really honest with you, I am so beyond grateful to have you here.
Oh, no worries. Happy to be. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Carol, I actually read one of your blog about who are you, and then you were mentioning in the blog that saying that you are not our identity shouldn't be defined by our occupation. You were saying that it is should be who we really are inside. So, Carol, do you want to share with our listeners out there who is Carol Cooke really inside?
Geez, you got me, don't you? So much. I shouldn't write blogs like that, I guess. Well, I guess I'm a very compassionate, dedicated to family, friends, to what I love doing and what I'm passionate in life about. I love mentoring people, especially younger athletes coming up. Or younger women who, you know, I've had quite a few careers, so I love mentoring people. I'm, you know, just someone who loves life. I'm a half glass full type of person, and I can always find the positive even in a negative. You know, there's always that little bit of positiveness that comes out of even a negative in life. So I guess, yeah, so I guess that really is me in a nutshell, someone who loves life, looks on the bright side. I have bad days just like everybody else, but try to make it not more than one day. And I just love my family. I was just actually just speaking to my family in Canada just before I jumped on with you. And so yeah, family and friends are an extremely important part of my life.
I love that. When I first met Carol was on one of the Zoom meeting with Kaylee. And I really love your stories, and I found that your story is very inspiring, especially to women out there. And that's why I said I got to invite Carol. I'm not sure you will say yes or no, but I got to send the invitation anyway.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's funny, you know, everybody has a story, and that's what I want people to realize. You know, I'm no different than anybody else. As I say to people, I put my pants on the same way as you do, one leg at a time. So everybody in life has some very inspiring stories, and you just have to realize that nobody's different from anybody else. We all just take different paths and do different things.
Wow, that's amazing. Your story is so amazing. And for those of you who don't know Carol, she is actually a 3-time gold medalist Paralympian. So Carol, do you mind to share with us how was your journey onto Paralympians?
Well, it was kind of a surprise. So I was an athlete as a young child, as a child and a teenager, and my goal was always the 1980 Olympics for Canada as a swimmer. And unfortunately, Canada boycotted those games. So that dream kind of died. But I kept swimming because I loved being athletic and being fit. I then joined the Toronto Police Force. I spent 14 years working in different areas of the force and ended up meeting my husband in Australia when I took a year off from work. And I had to go back to work, and we traveled back and forth for about a year until he proposed. And when I moved down here, I got involved with the local Masters Swim Club. And I guess it was 1998. I had some unusual symptoms that were cropping up. I was losing my balance. My vision was going. I was very lethargic, couldn't get out of bed. And I was eventually diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I decided that I was just going to keep going and living my life because my diagnosis was given to me in a very poor way, that, you know, my life was over and just go home and, you know, in case you know, quit everything basically because you're going to be incapacitated. But I thought, no, nobody's going to tell me what I can and can't do. And I kept swimming. And in 1995, the World Masters Games decided that they were going to add para events in swimming and athletics for the first time ever. And the World Games were being held in Canada. So it was kind of an excuse to go home for a visit. But I got classified as a para swimmer, and I went and swam and did pretty good and came home with a bucket full of medals and the master swimming starts at the age of 25. So the Paralympic Committee here in Australia had heard about me, and I think they thought I was 25, but I was 45, and they invited me to a talent search day, which is kind of like for young kids or teens and maybe into early 20s for, for our future Paralympians.
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed up, being 45, I ended up being 24 years older than the oldest person there. But I went through all the testing, and about 2 weeks later, I got asked to take up the sport of rowing, para rowing, because it was a brand new event in 2008, and in Beijing. So I went, okay. It took me a while to find a club because everybody was scared about that word disabled. I would call and say I've got a slight disability. At the time, I was using a walking stick. And I finally found a club who took me on. And in 2008, I made the national team, and I was rowing in a Cox 4, and we tried to qualify for Beijing, and we missed by 0.8 of a second.
Oh.
So we were just so devastated. And we kept rowing, and in 2009, we came 6th at the World Championships. So we all thought, oh, this is great. By 2012, we'll be a fantastic crew. We'll be gelled together and really strong. And then Rowing Australia just kind of dropped our crew. They weren't interested in the 4. And so I thought, what am I going to do now? I was still rowing with the club. But one of the girls that had been rowing with me from Sydney, she said, oh, Carol, they've got a trike category in cycling. Now, because of my balance, I can't ride 2 wheels, so I have a trike. It's a normal bike, but 2 wheels at the back. And I would ride that back and forth to rowing training. And so in 2011, I did my first race, which just happened to be nationals, and couldn't believe it, but I'd made the qualifying speed at that first race to be on the national team for the World Championships that year. And so yeah, that was kind of happened. It was just, I grew into it. And at my first World Championships, I'd been told I was the fastest trike rider that they'd ever seen.
Wow.
This is what our head coaches were telling me. And when I got to the World Championships, which were I think they were in Denmark, and I came second. And I was devastated because I was told I was the fastest. But so was a Canadian girl. She was told she was the fastest, and she was. She beat me, and she did beat me very handily. So yeah, and so that was my start into paracycling, and it's just gone on from there. And as I say to the younger riders, I don't ride now to make a team. I ride because I love it and I'm passionate about it. It's my social outlet. Like all my friends are now cyclists, and so we meet, we ride, we have coffee or breakfast, and I just happen to be good enough that I make a team. And so it's just kind of progressed from 2012 when I made my first team. I got the last spot on the team, I must say, and then I just kept riding because I enjoyed it. And 2016 ended up making the Rio team. I'm like, oh, okay. Completely surprised that this would ever happen. And won 2 gold medals there. And then when Tokyo was pushed out to 2021, I thought, oh, there's no way I'll get there. But I did. I got a spot on the team, and I won silver in the time trial. And I was 60 years old at those games. And the girl who won was 31. So, half my age, but I was still having fun. And that's the whole idea of life. Just, you got to be passionate about things and have fun at what you're doing. And yeah, and then good things happen in the end.
Wow, I had goosebumps listening to your stories, Carol. That's amazing. Yeah, it was like only 2 years ago you were in Tokyo for the Paralympic.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
So I'm still riding, and I've been saying to everybody this year, this will probably be my last year internationally competing, because I am 61 now, and I'm racing a 26-year-old now this year from Denmark. the 30-year-olds. There's one girl who's 54, one woman who's 54, but you know, at 61, they're a lot stronger than I am. So if it's a flat and technical course, I'm right in there. But if it's got hills, then they're killing me at those hills. So we'll see. I'm hoping to be in Glasgow in August for the World Championships, and we'll see what happens. But I don't believe I'll be in Paris next year, which would have been nice for a fourth games. But yeah, I don't. We've got such strong riders in Australia, and there's only a certain number of spots that are available. And I don't think we'll have enough places for me to actually be there, which is fine because, you know, as I said, I don't ride. I'll always keep riding. I'll always keep racing domestically, but yeah, we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, and from one of your interview, I think you mentioned what your sister was telling me. Enjoy the journey.
Exactly. It was when we didn't qualify for Beijing as rowers, and I'd been keeping a blog and, you know, talking about our training and our journey on the way there. And then when we didn't make it, I actually wrote a blog apologizing to everybody for the fact that we didn't actually make it to the games. And my sister just said, well, it doesn't matter, you know, about the destination. It's the journey that you've taken us on, an amazing journey. And she says, if you like rowing, just keep going on that journey. Don't worry, the destination is going to change all the time. And it's so true. You know, if you look at life, I was just talking to 200 year 12 boys at a school last week. And, you know, I said to them, you all have goals that you want to accomplish this year. And you think you know where your life is headed. You either want to, you know, go to university and take this course or do this degree, and you want to be this type of person. You want to hold this job, but life changes, and don't be scared of change. And whatever direction your path takes, your destination's always going to change. I mean, let's face it, we're all destined for the same destination at the very end, right? We're all going to be at that same destination at the end. But that journey along the way is going to take many different routes and twists and turns. So
I love that. Yeah, it's always the journey that's more important than the destination. It is like you say, you've been through a lot of challenges in your life. So one of them is what you mentioned, being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So when you was diagnosed at the time, can you share with us what were going through your mind? How was that situation unfold?
Oh, well, all my symptoms were gone by the time I went back to the neurologist to get my results. And so I thought I was a real fraud going in, like I was wasting his time. And he was an older man. He'd probably be in his 70s at the time, and probably should not have been practicing medicine at that point. But he opened his door and he was like really gruffly, get in here, and pointed to a big armchair, made me sit down, and he pulled out an MRI film and he held it to the ceiling light, and he was looking at it going, oh, well, there's too many lesions on your brain for someone your age. So basically, you know, you've got multiple sclerosis and your life as you know it's over. I'm sitting there kind of going, what? And he goes, so I'd suggest you go home and put your affairs in order before you become incapacitated. And I guess, like, I asked one question that whole appointment, and that was, what? And he just shook his head and he said, oh my God, you've got MS. You heard me. He says, this silly sports stuff you do, you're never going to do again. And I don't have time for you as a patient because I've got enough people with MS already. So you'll have to go back to your own GP.
Really?
And yeah. And with that, he put the film back in the envelope and he walked to the door. I was in there less than 2 minutes. And I was just sitting in this chair. And I think the only word going through my head at that point was incapacitated. Because to me, I went to the real dark side that day, like the real dark side. I was thinking, you know, 24/7 care, unable to feed myself, dress myself, bath myself, toilet myself, like, you know, the whole kit and caboodle, like, and I'd only been married for 3 years at this point. We had just bought a house the year before, and it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have family here. I've got Russ, but he's 10 years older than me. How's he going to look after me in later years? And so by the time I got home, I had our whole life sorted, and I was going to give him a divorce. I was going to give him the house, and I was going to go back to Canada and let my family look after me. And I had purposely told him not to come to the appointment that day because my symptoms were gone. So I figured there was nothing wrong. And when he got home, he said, so what happened? So I said, now, just let me tell you what he said. So I did. And I said, now, before you say anything, I've made some decisions. And I told him what I was going to do. And like a really good bush boy, Australian bush boy, he told me I was an effing idiot. And I said, haven't you heard what this doctor said? And he goes, well, so is he. Because we know nothing about this disease. So we need to find out more about it before we start making any decision, which was so good that I had somebody in my corner to say that to me, because I have come to realize that you never make decisions based on traumatic news that you hear or anything bad that you hear. You've got to weigh up the situation and then make some decisions. They always say knowledge is power. Well, in this case, it was knowledge is power. So I'm very lucky. I had a great GP, and who I still see, and he was young at the time. So this is 25 years ago. And he just looked at me and said, I can't look after you. Like, I don't, as a GP, we learn about 20 minutes of every disease. He said, I don't have enough knowledge. And to his credit, he got in touch with the MS Society and got a package of information sent to myself. And he got a package of information sent to him so he could learn more about it as well. So that was my foray into it. And I guess, when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, you go through a grieving process, like losing somebody. First there's disbelief that, no, this isn't happening. There's just no way, because my symptoms were gone. And then little symptoms would happen again, and then they go away. And that's the beast. That's MS, the beast. I have relapsing and remitting, so they come and go. And you go through all that sadness of, oh my God, like, what am I going to do now? And until you come out the other side and you realize, no, hang on a minute. I just have a chronic illness. It's not who I am. So it's just a part of me now. And so I'm going to live my life the way I can and do the best that I can. And if I have to use, a wheelchair or a walking stick or any kind of tools that are going to help me stay independent, then I'm going to do it. And that's how I've looked at it since.
Wow. So it's lucky that you have Russ beside you who remind you that knowledge is power.
Oh, look, definitely. Even with his Aussie language, and he tells me that the term idiot is a term of endearment. So I just kind of laugh. But yeah, because there's a lot of people who would have just gone, bang, I'm doing that, and completely throw their life away. So I'm lucky that I had somebody there, no matter who it was, to just say, hey, hang on a minute, let's find out first. So.
And I love that you were saying that knowledge is power.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So have you, from these incidents, you learn to see the positive side of things, or you were always seeing positive side of things?
Look, I think I was taught a very early lesson by my mom at the age of 9 about resilience and reframing your thinking about what you want to do. And I think in that aspect, she taught me to look at the positive aspects of, okay, well, if I can't do it this way, I'm going to do it this way, instead of it can't be done, instead of that always can't. But I think after the diagnosis, and honestly, the things that have happened to me in the 25 years that I've had it, I would never turn around and change that diagnosis, because I've had opportunities that I never would have had if I hadn't been diagnosed with MS. I was climbing the corporate ladder, we were working from paycheck, spending whatever, working from paycheck to paycheck. And to be honest, I think now, you know, I've learned to slow down. We actually, even though I don't have a full-time job, like employed by somebody else, we actually save more money than we did when we were both working full-time and just climbing those ladders. And I think I've, you know, like I said, it's made me who I am. And I never would have been to 3 Paralympic Games. I never would have traveled the world like I have racing. And I never would have met the people that I have. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I hadn't been diagnosed with MS, because I never would have probably met Kaylee. You know, so all these things, you think back and you think, well, none of my life would have happened. And it's that sliding doors moment, like that movie. You kind of go, what would it have been like? Well, I don't want to know, because I love my life. And it's all because of MS that this has happened. So
another great example is because throughout my conversation with these successful women, it's always, I like to share a quote said by Tony Robbins: life is happening for us instead of happening to us. And you are another great examples of those.
Oh, it's such a good quote, because, you know, it's life. There's another quote: life is 10% of what happens and 90% of how we react to it. And, you know, our reactions to life are just so interesting, because mine could have been 2 ways. You know, I either was going to go the way I have, or I was going to get rid of my life and go home, and God knows where that would have gone. Go back to Canada. So I'm glad I took the right-hand turn. To where I am now. Yeah, definitely.
That's right. It can be in different total direction if you choose the other path.
Oh, definitely. And to be honest, I think, you know, if you go the negative way, my health would have declined, and I probably wouldn't be in the position health-wise that I am now, if I'd gone the other way. You know? So I wouldn't be staying fit, or and I hate to think where I would be. I might be that incapacitated dark side person if I hadn't thought that.
That's right. And I love that in your I forgot whether it was from your speech or from your interview, you were saying that you are now you were saying that the doctor was right, because you were actually ending the old you.
Yeah, like he said, my life as I knew it was over. And yes, he was right, but he was thinking in that negative way. And I like to put a positive spin on it, because it has made me who I am. And like I said earlier, it's given me opportunities I never would have had. I never would have written 2 books. Like, what would have spurred me on to do that? You know? So there's so much in life that I never would have done.
Wow, that's so amazing. Yeah. And I knew that you were actually working in police force before as well, prior to coming to Australia. And you even work as the undercover. That's such a stories as well. It has been so much going through your life.
Oh, look, it's been a varied life. Yes. As anybody joins the police force, I started in uniform, you know, did about 4 years there, and then started doing a little bit of work with it was called the Morality Bureau, which is a weird name. I think they've changed it. And they worked with prostitution, drugs, gambling, all the moral things. And so I started doing a little bit of work with them as a young 23-year-old, 24-year-old in uniform, and I'd go do some work with them, just one-off night things. And eventually they said, oh, do you want to come into the squad? And okay, this will be fun. So I spent 4 years working in the drug and prostitution areas, you know, playing different roles. And it was, for a 24, 25-year-old, it was great, because you could be anybody you wanted to be on any given day. You just had to remember what you told to which bad guy, you know. So it was exciting. It was fun. It was scary at times. I did some stupid things at times that, you know, I shouldn't have done, because I could, if things had gone the wrong way, I could have got myself into a lot of pretty bad situations, you know, with drug dealers in public housing, in little corridors where, you know, I shouldn't have been. But luckily, I came out the other side. And after about 4 years, I thought, okay, it's time to do something different. And I moved into the detective office and worked there for about 4 years. And that was interesting because that made you think. It made you, you know, I did everything, investigated everything from, you know, petty thefts right up to assisting with murder investigations. And so, you know, it really made you think when you're investigating stuff about how the bad guy would do that, you know, so that you could catch the person. So I really enjoyed that. And, you know, by the end of that 4 years, I'd been investigating a sexual assault, which was really bad. It was a really bad one. And we spent months on this case, and we finally arrested somebody. And by the time we got it to court, and just the way the judicial system was, I almost lost my mind. I was really over it, and I didn't know if it was a job I wanted to continue doing. So that's when I took the year leave of absence, and I moved down here for a year. And that's when I met Russ, my husband, during that year. But when I went back, I had to go back to work. So I actually went back to uniform and became a training officer. So and young officers had graduated from police college, and they'd ride with me. And so that was interesting. But I realized after that year that, yeah, policing was something I did not want to do the rest of my life. I just had enough. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't that. And then Russ, after traveling back and forth, finally proposed, and I went, oh, yay.
Wow.
And I came down here. So
Lovely.
And what did I do? I got a job working for Australia Post delivering parcels. So then started to climb the corporate ladder, learning the postal system from the bottom right up.
Wow.
And had a number of different jobs in there. So that was good. I learned a lot, you know, administratively, managerial, managing a post office with, you know, the posties in the back of it, and then HR manager of Southern Transport, so dealing with all the trucks, and, you know, parcel pickup and delivery and moving things around the state and Tasmania, and then into training and development. And that's where I ended up. I was getting pretty sick with my MS, and realized it was time that I had to concentrate on me and not worry about stressing getting back to work when I'd had a relapse. So that's when I left full-time employment and just concentrated on me and I was in a wheelchair full-time at that point, and it was just getting out of the chair and getting my health back to where it's.
So prior to MS, you were actually swimming as well, or at the same time with the Australia Post?
Yeah. So I was swimming as a master swimmer. You know, that was my sport. You know, I would train a couple mornings a week and on the weekend, and go and do all the open water swims that are around the bay here. And yeah, it was fun. Had a lot of fun.
Wow.
And it was how I met people when I moved here. You know, it was, got into a club, and those friends, I've got 5 girlfriends from that swim club, and I'm still best of friends now, you know, almost 28 years later. So, you know, we still go out every month for dinner, and one girl rides with me every weekend. So yeah, we still keep in touch. So, which is really good.
Yeah, that's a different and wonderful journey for you. So with the undercover, it sounds like you are someone very courageous, because I don't think typical women will go into undercover. So you must be someone who is fearless. And I know that one of the teaching that you teach is become fearless. So how can you share with us, how can someone become fearless?
Look, I think, you know, when I say fearless, I don't mean like I would never jump out of a plane. You know, like I think we have to be fearless in our own self, and believe in ourselves, and know that we can accomplish whatever we set out to do. You know, I'm still fearful of things, But I think being fearless means accepting that fear, but pushing on in spite of it. You know, having that courage to push through that fear and continue doing what you're doing. There's many times when I was working undercover, and a lot of times I worked with a partner. So I'd either have a female partner or a male partner, depending on what I was doing in that undercover role. So at least you had somebody else there. But I remember times standing trying to buy drugs, and under my pants, my legs would be shaken because I was so scared. But you just knew you had a role to play, and you had to push through that fear and do your job. So I think it's about believing in yourself and what you can accomplish in spite of that fear. That's how you become fearless. There's nothing wrong with fear. We all have fear. And like I said, you know, I'm very fearful of certain spiders. I'm an arachnophobia person. I would never jump out of a perfectly good plane that could land. Like, I would never go, skydiving. So we've all got fears. And I'm not interested in getting through those ones, to be honest. So, but I think if you've got something you want to do and you're scared of trying to do it, you just have to push past that fear and give it a go. Now, I use this adage. When we're born and as babies, we're learning to walk. We stand up and we fall down hundreds, if not thousands of times. And sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry. And at times you'll see a small child very scared of, parents are trying to get them to walk, and they're scared. No, they want to be on on their knees and their hands. But they push past that fear and they eventually get up and they eventually walk, and not just walk, but they run. Now, I think as adults, as we get older, we get more fearful of trying things or being who we want to be. And I think we have to be more like those babies and just push through those fears and believe in ourselves and accomplish whatever we set out to do in spite of the fear. That to me is being fearless.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the fear is always there. You just have to just do it.
Well, you just take baby steps. If you're fearful of something, you think, what's the first little thing that I can possibly do to move forward? And you take it and you realize, well, that was okay. What's the next step that I can take? And it's about taking those baby steps to get there. And eventually you've pushed past that a lot of fears just in our heads. It's stuff we make up about what'll happen, and it doesn't normally happen. It's all up here. And so it's about pushing through those beliefs instead of thinking that those weird thoughts that we have. Just believe in what you want to do. And as I said, take those little steps forward. And by the time you complete whatever the task is that you've been fearful about, you go, oh, that wasn't hard. It wasn't, or not hard. It might be very hard, but it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. And why was I so afraid to try that? And I honestly believe that most of us just make up all these things about what would happen if we did something. Wow. And that's why we're scared.
Well, that's very important piece of advice for everyone out there, because just last night I spoke to someone about fear as well. And then fear is actually an acronym of false evidence appearing real.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's what we make up in our head, for sure.
That's right. That's true. And love that. I really love that message. Thank you so much for that, Carol. So you've been through challenges in your life, and I believe there are still challenges throughout life, no matter what, right? And so how are you tackling all these challenges nowadays?
Oh, probably the same way I have, and how I learned from my mom about reframing my thinking. I always find that if there's something that isn't quite working, I'm not getting the result that I want. If I keep doing it the same way, I'm going to keep getting the not the result that I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about, there's always challenges in life, no matter what. I mean, you think of the change that we go through every single day. We make decisions to change things all the time. And so it's about, how do I change that to be able to accomplish what I want to, the next step. So, you know, for me right now, the challenge, like, as you know, I had a crash racing at nationals and completely dislocated my entire shoulder. And so I've had a plate and artificial ligaments put in. And my challenge right now is to try and get back on the bike and back training. And so I'm taking it baby steps. You know, I've just started out very light pedaling on a trainer inside, and because I can't ride on the road now, and I'm not allowed to. The surgeon figures I'll crash again and damage all his good work. But so it's all those baby steps to get me back out there, you know. And I've surrounded myself with an amazing team. And in life, when you want to do something, the best thing you have to have is mentors or coaches or people around you who believe in you, who believe that you can accomplish what you want to set out to do, and who are there to assist. And so, you know, I've got a physio that I work with like every week, 3 times a week. I've got a massage therapist who's working with me. I have a gym coach who's doing a program to try and get me as fit as I can without using one arm. I've got a nutritionist who's looking at my nutrition for recovery, you know, from surgery, and then looking at training. And I've got a cycling coach who's putting programs in place to step me up. Like this morning I did a session and on the trainer indoors, and it was the hardest one I've done since nationals in January 10th is when I had my crash. So, you know, it's all those people around you who can assist you as well. And mentors and people who've actually been there and done what you're trying to do in the past. Like, they're the ones that you got to talk to and say, well, how did you get over this? You know, how did you get past this stumbling block? And it's funny, a lot of us are scared to ask for help.
True.
You know? And it's such an important thing to just realize that sometimes you can't do everything by yourself.
That's right.
And so if you do have challenges, there's nothing wrong with asking for help and for assistance to get over that hurdle. So, and I do that with everything. And it took me a long time. It took me a long time to ask for help, because I was not one to ask for help. And even with this injury that I have, I couldn't drive, and so asking friends for a drive somewhere, it was like the hardest thing I had to do. You know, I live in the north of the city, and they're all like southeast, and I had to go southeast, but they were like, no, we'll come pick you up. You know, when I finally asked, they were like, oh, we're glad you asked. Anything we can do to help. So, you know, people are out there that are willing to help. So it's just about finding your voice and saying, okay, put your hand up and say, could somebody help me do this?
Yeah, it's always good that ask and finding your voice. That's very important, because if you never ask, you never know the answer.
No, that's true.
If I never put my guts out to ask Carol, you wouldn't be on here talking to me.
Exactly. So it's a good thing that you did ask.
Yes, that's so important. And don't create all this false evidence in your head that Carol might not say yes, she might be so busy, and she might not entertain me. All these different things going through the mind.
Well, exactly. And you know, you can go back to what Kaylee has done, and her 100 lunches with strangers.
That's right.
Like, you know, it took her courage, and she got past that fear and just asked for lunch, you know, and look at where she's gone to.
Yes, and she inspired me to start this 100 Successful Women interview as well.
Perfect.
Yes,
that's good.
The thing. Oh, I love that advice from you, Carol. So it is very important for all those women, everyone out there, to be reminded it's always important to see things in a different perspective and never create those false evidence in your mind and take action.
Oh, exactly.
That's so important. So what is your, or who is your biggest inspiration in life, Carol?
Oh, I've got a few. My dad was one of them. Unfortunately, we lost him in 2016 to Alzheimer's. But he was a huge influence in my life. He was a policeman as well. And my mom, as I always allude to her, actually my blog that when I posted on Sunday was about being fearless, and it was actually about her. And she was so chuffed. She's 86 now, and she sent me a message going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you wrote about me." So they were huge inspirations, my parents. I think they instilled in me the belief that just because I was a woman, it didn't mean that I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do in life. And my mom, I mean, she was a teacher, a young woman at the age of 20, teaching, come from a far northern Ontario, northern Canada community into the big city of Toronto. And within a year decided that she wanted to be doing something exciting. So she applied for the police force. Now this is back in 1957, which is something that women just didn't do. And she was actually hired as the 14th woman ever on the Toronto police force. And one of the first to ever do any kind of undercover work in the same bureau that squad I worked with, the Morality Bureau. And which is quite funny that I ended up doing the same thing. So huge inspiration from them. But in my sporting career, somebody that I've always looked up to is Tammy Van Wissa, and she's a Melbourneite. She's an open water swimmer, and her brother did a triple crossing of the English Channel. She swum Bass Strait, through shark infested waters, and she's just done some amazing stuff. And I met Tammy when I was on my year leave of absence here, and she just kind of, was so friendly and so inviting, and included me in stuff. And I went training with her and her brother and their coach, and she was such an inspiration. They failed a number of times to do their big swim in the English Channel, and eventually succeeded because they never gave up. They knew that they had it in them to do it. And so, yeah, huge mentor from her. And I guess one other person was a friend of mine named Bruce that I met through MS, and Bruce had MS as well. And he's since unfortunately passed away as well. He, just because you have MS doesn't mean you can't get anything else. And he ended up with cancer. But he was given a year to live when his cancer diagnosis was given to him. And his answer to the doctor was, "Don't tell me when I'm going to die. I'll decide when that happens." And it was 7 years later when he passed away. And his whole ideal about life, you could call Bruce, and he would be having the worst day with his cancer and his MS. And you'd say, "How are you today, Bruce?" And he'd go, "I'm fantastic because I woke up this morning and I was breathing." And, I think if you've got somebody who's going through such hardships, and he went through hell, but he was never sad in front of everybody else. He always had a smile on his face. He was always there, even towards the end, to help anybody. And that statement from him, "I woke up this morning and I was breathing," if we could all take a piece of that and realize that life is too short, and we need to do that. Just be happy that we're waking up and we are breathing this air, So those are the four that people in my life who've been a huge influence. And my sister, because she, kicks my butt through cyberspace when I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. My younger sister at that, but no, she's been absolutely amazing as well.
Those people that you just mentioned, they're so inspiring. Your mom being fearless, and then she is an example to show that women can do anything if they set their mind to it and don't think that women it's less compared to men.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
She did.
She did. And I guess you know, I guess I get that from her and her mother. Her mother crossed the Atlantic Ocean from England to the US and then went back to England and then crossed the Atlantic again.
Oh
you know,
my goodness.
back in the 1920s, just to find a new life.
Wow.
So I guess I'm pretty lucky. I come from some fearless stock of women.
Yeah, you guys actually, you ladies actually come from the fighter family.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I love that. And then the message from Bruce is that being grateful with the abundance that you have in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I'm sitting here and I've got a picture of Bruce on my board in front of me, and I just look at him and he's just got the biggest smile on his face, and I just think that was Bruce through everything, through all the turmoil, through all the heartache. You know, his family fell apart and his health declined after that, but he was always smiling whenever you saw him. He'd walk into a room with a big smile on his face, and you know, make everybody's day. And so I hope that I can take just that little bit of that from him and do the same thing every day.
Yeah, that's like what everyone is saying, be the lights for others and then spread the love.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, thank you so much for that information and that piece of advice, Carol. I am very mindful of the time and know that you're super busy. So another thing that probably I would like to ask is that if you could go back and give your 18 years old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Can I do two pieces of advice?
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Okay, the first thing I would say to that 18-year-old is take two words out of your vocabulary: can't and never.
Can't and never.
Don't let people tell you that you'll never be any good at something or that you can't try something. They're just bad words. You know, I just think don't even use them or even think of them. And the other one, and I think probably the biggest one, is to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else will. It comes from within first, and that power of belief then comes out and shows the world that you believe in yourself, so others go, oh wow, we're gonna believe in her as well. So those are the two little pieces of advice I'd give my 18-year-old self.
Oh, that's so lovely. Yes, everything that you got to believe in yourself first. The belief come from within.
Yeah, definitely.
And remember those two words. Take it out from your dictionaries or whatever.
Yeah, can't and never.
Never. That's very important. Thank you so much for that. And then, so what's next for Carol? I know that you mentioned you're going to travel really soon.
Yes, I'm doing quite a bit of racing in May, the end of April into May, and I'm trying to build my speaker business right now. So trying to do more corporate work, and you know, talk a bit about leadership with using the athlete's mindset, you know, the high performance mindset of an athlete, and harnessing your own force within you. I have an acronym of FORCE that I use. So being fearless, being original, being courageous, reframing your thoughts for resilience, and empowering yourself to find the positives in life.
I love that. Harness your force.
Force, yeah. And I did that backward. I put courage before reframing, so it's FORCE. Carol, gotta learn how to spell.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's very, very good piece of that. Force, and harness your force. That's fearless, and original.
Reframe your thoughts.
Reframe your thought.
Have courage to take a chance on change. And embrace the positives in life.
Embrace the positive in life. Wow, that's so great. That these 5 pieces that so easy to remember. Force. That harness your force. I love that. That's so important, and it is such an important piece of message for everyone out there, because change is inevitable.
Oh yes, on a daily. You know, some of it's small, some of it's big, but it's a daily thing that we all have to realize. Don't be scared of. You know, change can be good. Yeah. Even bad change can eventually be good.
That's right. That bad change is telling you something, and there is a lesson for you to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's such a great piece of advice. So if anyone who would like to reach out to you online, where can they find you, Carol?
They can find me on my website. They can contact me through that, and that's Carol Cooke, Cooke with an E, .com.au.
Okay, so they can reach out to you for speech and your speaking to the corporate, especially, and schools as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love that your message is going to be very helpful, especially for younger generation as well.
I love talking to kids. Like I said, I spoke to 200 year 12 boys last week, and yeah, and it, you know, it doesn't matter what age, they get it, even the younger ones, you know, when I talk to them. So I talk from kinder right up to corporates. So it's fun.
Yeah, everyone should listen to what you share to them. It's going to empower them and to have a strong mindset, because then they can tackle challenges in their life.
Yeah, that's what I try to get through to them.
Yeah, thank you so much for what you are doing, Carol. That's amazing. And you are the light, and you going to inspire a lot of people with what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you.
So one last piece of advice for all the women out there, Carol, if there's one that you want to share with other women out there.
The power of the mind is amazing. And if you put the positive thoughts into it, it's amazing how it can change your life. If you think positively, it's amazing how that going out can change your life.
The power of the mind. And yeah, once you it's always the meaning that we give to things, right? It's yeah, that's thank you so much for that, Carol, and thank you so much for your time. So before we wrap up, is there any one question that you wish I would ask and I haven't asked?
Oh, I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Oh, thank you so much again, Carol, for your time. I really appreciate that. And your message is so important for everyone out there to share with them. Everything is possible.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me to get that message out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully everyone out there follow Carol's journey, and then you'll see where she's going.
That'd be great. And I'm all across social media, so
yeah, I think search Carol Cooke, everything, you can easily reach her.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Carol, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, take care.